Is Nolan Arenado coming to Boston becoming more of a reality? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and today we are revisiting a trade that we had proposed earlier this offseason because all of a sudden there appears to be more smoke around this fire. We're going to talk about how this could impact the 2025 offseason and what this means for the Sox. But before we get into that, if you're sitting there saying, Corbin, how are we not talking about Juan Soto? His decision's coming up. The Sox are right in the mix. Well, boy, do I have the answer for you, because tonight, right here on this channel, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to be hosting a waiting room for Juan Soto news. We're going to be talking about all the latest that are connecting the Sox and Soto, plus everything else going on with the Red Sox right now. Again, that is going to be tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, we actually did a trade proposal for Nolan Arenado all the way back at the end of October, where we just sort of threw it together as, hey, maybe this could be something the Red Sox might be interested in. Well, things have started to at least heat up a little bit in the Nolan Arenado camp, and it all started last week when Sean McAdam of Mass Live threw this little tidbit into one of his articles. Don't rule out some Red Sox interest in Arenado. There have been some internal talks about moving Devers off of third base at some point, and Arenado is viewed as plan B. We actually did already talk about this quote on this channel. We more focused on what this could mean for Rafael Devers as opposed to what this could mean for Nolan Arenado, but this is really the first time we saw Arenado truly linked to this Red Sox team. Before that, it was mainly just other creators like myself who mentioned, hey, Nolan Arenado might not be the worst idea in the world for the Red Sox to go after. This was the first true internal report that we saw about the Red Sox interest in Arenado. But the reason we are really making this video today is because national analysts are also starting to hop on board the Red Sox Nolan Arenado trade. Last night, John Morrissey appeared on MLB Network, and he was asked about kind of a cryptic message Arenado left on his Instagram talking about Dodger Blue by Kendrick Lamar. Here's what he had to say. Right now, it sounds like the Dodgers are on the periphery, whereas he has heard more rumblings about potentially the Boston Red Sox depending on how they move around their infield. Now, again, when we're talking about why we're making this video today, this is sort of the first time that nationally Nolan Arenado has been linked to the Boston Red Sox. There have been other rumblings about, hey, this might potentially work, but this is really the first time we've heard that the Red Sox may legitimately have some interest in Nolan Arenado. I think at this point in the trade conversations, if we're trying to make a tier list here as to what teams are favored for Nolan Arenado, I think the Red Sox are right there at the top. I also think teams like the Tigers and the Dodgers are up there as well. But right now, the Red Sox have a whole lot of smoke around them. And I think one of the more interesting parts of both of these conversations is that it feels like Nolan Arenado isn't the Red Sox first priority. It feels like, just like Sean McAdam said, Nolan Arenado is plan B, which begs the question, what is plan A here, right? If Sean McAdam is flat out saying it, if John Morrissey is saying, well, it might be a possibility for the Red Sox if they shuffle some things around a little bit, what would that plan A be? Is it a guy like Alex Bregman or Willy Adames? Is someone on the free agent market piquing the Red Sox interest just a little bit more right now? I would say of the two personally, I think it's Willy Adames. The Red Sox have been closely linked to Adames so far this free agency. We know that they are setting up a meeting to meet with Willy Adames. He is my personal preference for the role that Nolan Arenado would potentially take on with the Boston Red Sox, not only because he's younger and has had better seasons offensively recently, but also because he is a stellar defender that not only can probably play a really great third base, but can also be a very important backup to a Trevor Story that has been pretty consistently injured in his time with the Red Sox. Yes, I understand that there are concerns with him versus left-handed pitchers, as he has not been very good with them throughout his career, but at the same time too, I do think there are concerns with every single one of these options, so you're gonna have to weigh the pros and the cons here. But if that's not plan A, is plan A more of a general, hey, if and when the Red Sox don't end up with Juan Soto, this is the direction they are going to pivot? Honestly, I have no idea what plan A actually is, but it's really starting to come together that there is a potential that Nolan Arenado is plan B. So now the question becomes, what do we think about this, right? We had our conversation earlier in the year where there wasn't really a ton of smoke to this fire. Well, all of a sudden you're starting to get a little bit of smoke here. Does your opinion change a little bit? I'll tell you personally, my opinion's probably right around the same as what it was. And that's simply that I don't hate this move. In fact, I actually see a lot of positives, at least on paper, with bringing Arenado to the Boston Red Sox. Now, I'm not going to dive super deep into the statistics or anything like that because we have talked about this before and I don't want to totally repeat myself, but I am going to quickly go over why I think Nolan Arenado could bring some positives to the Red Sox. I mean, first and foremost, obviously the glove, right? Nolan Arenado is one of the best third base defenders of all time. He has 10 gold gloves, a couple of platinum gloves. This dude is an absolute force to be reckoned with at third base defensively, and it's not like age is really preventing him from being successful over at third base either. Last year, he was one of the better defenders in Major League Baseball. In my opinion, this is the biggest appeal of bringing Arenado to the Boston Red Sox, and the biggest reason for that is because it's attractive to frontline starting pitching, specifically a guy like Max Fried, who I think is still at the top of every single Red Sox fan's wish list, at least one B2 Juan Soto, but we're going to get Juan Soto conclusion at some point in the near future here, so I think a lot of fans have already kind of mentally moved on to Max Fried, and Max Fried is a ground ball pitcher. It has to be really appealing to have a healthy Trevor Story at shortstop and a obviously great Nolan Arenado at third base, sort of recreating those great Rockies teams, because that means that he's going to have stellar defense behind him when he's on the mound. I also think it's appealing to Corbin Burnes, who has had less swing and miss than he's had over the recent years. He's becoming more of a ground ball type pitcher, and again, it has to be appealing to have a guy like Nolan Arenado in the fold. So I think that's sort of the biggest positive to this Arenado stuff, but I will say, offensively, despite the fact that he is trending downwards a bit, there are still some positives there, and I think the biggest one is the Red Sox current biggest problem with their offense, and that is the sheer amount of strikeouts. They had a ton of strikeouts last year. They were a top 5 strikeout team in Major League Baseball last year. Nolan Arenado is very, very difficult to strike out. In fact, he had one of the lowest strikeout rates among active players last season. So even if he isn't the guy who's going to put up 30 plus home runs and 100 plus RBIs going forward, which most likely he's not going to be, he is still going to help this Red Sox team by simply creating more contact in the zone, and that's exactly what the Red Sox are looking for, especially from the right-hand side, right? Not only does he not strike out a ton, he's also a right-handed hitter, and the Red Sox are looking simply to just balance out this lineup a little bit. Nolan Arenado does both of those things. I will also say, I think there could be the potential of a resurgence for Arenado at Fenway Park. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to all of a sudden hit 40 home runs just because he's playing 81 games at Fenway, but we have seen in recent years some of these older right-handed hitters who are able to refine themselves because of this monster. At the bare minimum, more fly balls are going to land in play, more fly balls are going to become doubles, right? You're going to see a lot more contact made if you are a pull-happy right-handed hitter, which Nolan Arenado is. So I do think there is something here as well to the potential of a resurgence. Yes, you could look at the decline, or you could look at the potential future that Nolan has, and I just simply don't know where he ends up sitting on that spectrum. What I will say is that I still have in my head that this only works one way, and that's not moving Rafael Devers over to first base. We've talked about this 1,000 times, but I just want to reiterate, I do not like that idea. I do not like the idea of the Boston Red Sox putting Rafael Devers at first base. Not because I think Rafael Devers is a terrible defender, which statistically he's not a great defender, but because I just don't think he's going to make the transition over to first base smooth enough to truly be competitive in 2025. Yes, hypothetically, first base is easier to play than third base, but not everyone can make that transition really well. In fact, most of these successful transitions we've seen from third base to first base have been from really good defensive third basemen. We have also seen players who aren't good defensively try and man first base and it not work out really well. Kyle Schwarber is a prime example of that. Franchy Cordero with the Red Sox is a prime example of that. You don't notice a good first baseman or an average first baseman, but you really notice a bad first baseman, and Red Sox fans understand that firsthand. But it's not just the Red Sox who have had issues with this. Miguel Cabrera of the Detroit Tigers, when he moved over to first base as a bad third base defender, which kind of sits in line with Rafael Devers, was not much better at first base. My point in all this is, yes, hypothetically, first base is easier than third base. Yes, Rafael Devers has the potential to be a solid first baseman, but it's a massive risk, a risk I don't think the Red Sox should be willing to take if they're looking to be competitive right out of the gate in 2025. Plus, that also means you're most likely trading Tristan Casas, which you guys know my opinions on. I think the only way still that this works for the Red Sox is if they're able to move Masataka Yoshida, whether that be the Cardinals taking on most of his contract, which I still don't think makes a ton of sense for the Cardinals, considering they're trying to shed their payroll, or whether that's and in my opinion, more likely, trying to move him in another direction, trying to get someone to take some of that contract off of your hands. And that way, you'd be able to move Rafael Devers into that DH position, which is where I ultimately think Rafael Devers ends up. The Red Sox are paying him strictly for his bat, not his offense. I don't care if he ends up at DH. I do care if it's going to hurt this Red Sox infield a little bit more having him at first base. So overall, I think looking at the latest reports of this Nolan Arenado stuff, I don't think anything is imminent. I don't think the Red Sox are out there actively trying to get Nolan Arenado, but I do think the interest is there. I do think the Red Sox are at least making the phone call for Nolan. I think they're at least having the internal conversations about what that would look like. I think they're sitting there saying, okay, if this or this doesn't work out, whatever this or that may end up being, Nolan Arenado is a fantastic second option, and I think I agree if that's the way the Red Sox are going to go. I just think there's such a small circle of success here the Red Sox need to balance to make this end up working, and that's what really scares me about this deal. But I could absolutely, at this point, see Nolan Arenado in a Red Sox uniform, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this? What do you think about the latest rumors surrounding Nolan Arenado? Where would you put the Red Sox in all of this? And would you want the Red Sox to trade for someone like Arenado? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. I will see you tonight for Soto Watch 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course, as always, in the red seats.